Sir, this woman was here yesterday. The waiter's words cut through the room. The man's hands froze. Meter's eyes fixed on the figure in the corner. It couldn't be. His wife was dead. The cafe smelled of fresh bread and dark coffee, its warmth wrapping every corner in comfort. People chatted quietly. Spoons clinked against porcelain cups, and life seemed ordinary. Yet for one man, ordinary was a luxury he hadn't known in months. He sat alone near the window, his broad shoulders hunched, his coat too heavy for the room but perfect for hiding the tremor in his hands. His name was Daniel. He had once been a soldier, a man of unshakable strength, the one others leaned on when the world collapsed. But now, the war he carried was not on a battlefield. It was inside him, in the silence left by loss. His wife, Claire, had been gone for nearly a year. A sudden illness had stolen her breath, leaving him with an empty house and a daughter who clung to photographs instead of memories. Daniel moved through life as if half of him had been buried with her. So when the waiter's words pierced the air, "Sir, this woman was here yesterday," Daniel's chest tightened. Slowly, he followed the young man's gaze toward the corner booth. There she sat, the woman, her hair falling in soft waves, her posture calm, her eyes lowered as though reading. For one breathless moment, Daniel believed. His heart pounded against his ribs, demanding it to be true. But reason fought back. Claire was gone. He had held her hand until it grew cold. He had stood at her graveside, the earth damp beneath his boots. Yet there she was. Daniel's mind raced. Was this grief's cruel trick? Was it a stranger with the same face? Or was there something more? Something no logic could explain. He rose, each step unsteady, his boots heavy against the wooden floor. Conversations faltered as patrons noticed his trembling approach. The cafe, once warm, now held its breath. The woman lifted her head. Their eyes met. Daniel froze. The world seemed to tilt. Her eyes, those were Claire's eyes. Clear, kind, with the same spark that once steadied him, when chaos threatened to swallow him whole. But then she blinked, and the spell fractured. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice soft but not unfamiliar. "You must be mistaken." Daniel staggered back. The waiter frowned, uneasy, looking between them. "I swear, sir, she was here yesterday, too. She always comes at the same time." The other patrons whispered, some curious, some skeptical, but none dared to step in. Backstory pressed down on Daniel. He had been a leader of men, a veteran of deserts and jungles, a protector who never hesitated. But in the quiet of his home, when the sickness took his wife, he had been helpless. No amount of training, no medals, no discipline could save her, and that helplessness had hollowed him out. He remembered the smell of antiseptic, the sound of machines beeping, the last squeeze of her hand. He remembered promising her he would live, even when she could not. But promises were hard to keep in the shadow of grief. Now, in this cafe, with a woman's face mirroring the one he had lost, the wound tore open again. Conflict built around him. The manager approached, annoyed at the disruption. "Sir, if this woman says she doesn't know you, you must respect her. We cannot have scenes in here." The murmurs grew. Strangers shook their heads, whispering about grief, about madness. The woman in the booth lowered her eyes, clutching her hands together. Daniel stood in silence. He did not argue, did not shout. His stillness carried weight. His silence became a mirror, reflecting the injustice of being dismissed, of being told to bury his truth yet again. He turned, not toward the manager, but back to the woman. "Even if you are not her," he said quietly, "you carry her kindness in your eyes. And that is enough to remind me I once had something worth living for." The words stunned the room. The woman's eyes filled with tears. Slowly, she stood, her chair scraping against the floor. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded photograph. It was of a hospital. Of Claire, smiling weakly, holding the hand of another patientess woman. The cafe gasped. The truth revealed itself like light through a crack in the door. She had not been Claire, but she had been with Claire. They had met in the hospital. They had promised each other to survive, to carry one another's stories if one did not make it. "I tried to find you," the woman said, her voice trembling now. "She told me everything about you. She told me to tell you. She loved you until her last breath, and she wanted you to live, to truly live." Daniel's knees weakened. The photograph shook in his hands. A silence fell heavier than any battlefield pause he had known. Then, slowly, he sank into the booth across from her, tears slipping down his weathered face. For the first time in months, they were not the tears of despair, but of release. The cafe, once a place of whispers and judgment, shifted. Patrons who had mocked or dismissed now looked with quiet respect. The manager lowered his eyes, ashamed. The waiter stood straighter, realizing the weight of his words had carried a truth larger than he understood. And Daniel, once broken, once buried in silence, found a fragile thread of healing. Iconic lines lingered from that day. Even silence can carry the loudest truth. Grief does not end, love it carries it forward. Sometimes, strangers are chosen to deliver the messages our hearts most need. Weeks later, Daniel returned to the cafe. The same woman sat waiting. Not as Claire, but as a reminder of her. Together, they spoke of memories, of promises, of life that could still be honored. And when Daniel rose to leave, the room did not whisper this time. It stood in quiet respect, recognizing the power of love that endures beyond loss. That night became more than a story of mistaken identity. It became a reminder that love does not vanish with death. It lingers in faces, in words, in the courage of strangers chosen to carry pieces of those we've lost. Heroes are not always those who fight battles in deserts or return with scars. Sometimes, they are those who learn to carry grief with dignity, and to teach us that silent strength is the bridge between despair and hope. If this story touched your heart, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Would you have believed in her eyes that night? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and join us for more stories that honor love, courage, and the silent heroes among us.